Rafael Carrion lived in the heart of the bustling city of Manila, where he led a life of prestige, luxury, and relentless ambition. His days were spent in glass towers, sealed off from the chaos below, discussing multi-million peso deals and ensuring that his family's vast fortune remained intact. Born into one of the wealthiest families in the country, Rafael had always known that his life's trajectory was set. Expectations weighed heavily on his shoulders. From a young age, his father had molded him to be the next titan in their family business. His life revolved around success, power, and maintaining his family's stature. Rafael was engaged to one of Manila's socialites, Patricia San Diego, a woman from an equally prestigious background. Together, they were seen as the power couple, their lives a perfect blend of beauty, money, and influence. But beneath this perfect exterior, Rafael often felt empty, and Patricia's increasing obsession with wealth and status only highlighted his own dissatisfaction with his life. In contrast, far away from the city's towering skyscrapers, Iska Magdabay lived a simple, joyous life in a small, idyllic rural village in the northern mountains of the Philippines. Raised by her kind and loving grandfather, Mang Pedro, Iska's world was filled with earthy joys. Waking up to the rooster's crow, tending to the animals, and harvesting crops alongside her friends in the village. Iska loved her life. She knew everyone in the community, and her kindness and good-natured spirit made her a beloved figure. The world she inhabited was one of simplicity, one of fresh air, rivers to swim in, and food cooked with care and love. Yet, her grandfather would often tell her stories about her real father, who had left the village when she was just a baby to seek fortune in the big city. Mang Pedro would also mention that Iska's father, though absent, had never stopped caring for her and had left her something significant in Manila. These stories piqued her curiosity, but never swayed her desire to stay in her village. Despite living far from the capital, Iska had a charm and beauty that seemed to attract attention from suitors, though she was uninterested in the men of her village. Her heart wasn't swayed by charm or looks. She craved something deeper, but didn't know what that something was, until one fateful day when a letter arrived, changing her life forever. One rainy afternoon, as Iska sat by the window of their wooden house, Mang Pedro walked in, holding a letter in his wrinkled hands. His face bore a mix of pride and sadness. Iska noticed his expression and sat up straight, alarmed. The letter was from a lawyer's office in Manila. Mang Pedro handed it to Iska with trembling hands, explaining that it was sent by the executors of her late father's estate. He had passed away a few months prior, and the letter contained information that was about to change Iska's life. As Iska opened the envelope, her heart raced. The legal jargon was confusing, but the message was clear. Iska's father had left her a considerable inheritance, consisting of vast land properties, shares in various companies, and a large sum of money. She was now an heiress, and she had to go to Manila to claim her rightful inheritance. Iska's mind spun. The thought of leaving her village, the only place she had ever known, filled her with fear. She had no desire for wealth, nor did she understand the complexities of managing estates and businesses. Mang Pedro reassured her, telling her that it was her father's wish for her to have these assets and that it was her responsibility to honor his legacy. Torn between her love for the village and her duty to her father, Iska decided to make the journey to Manila. It was not for the money, but to fulfill the last wishes of a father she barely knew. Mang Pedro supported her decision, knowing that her life was about to change forever. She packed her bags, bid farewell to the village, and with a heavy heart, left the only life she had ever known. The bustling city of Manila was a jarring contrast to the tranquil village Iska had come from. She arrived, wide-eyed and overwhelmed by the towering buildings, honking cars, and the throngs of people who rushed by without so much as a glance at her. Her simple clothes and country girl demeanor made her stand out in the polished urban landscape. Upon arriving at the lawyer's office, Iska felt even more out of place. The plush interiors, expensive furniture, and well-dressed professionals made her feel small and insignificant. The lawyer greeted her kindly, though somewhat surprised at her appearance, and began explaining the terms of her inheritance. At that same moment, Rafael Carrion sat in the very same office, dealing with his own financial crisis. Unbeknownst to him, the companies his family had once managed were now owned by Iska through her inheritance. When he overheard the conversation between Iska and the lawyer, his interest was piqued. Rafael saw Iska as naive and clueless about the magnitude of her newfound wealth. His instinct as a businessman kicked in. He approached her, offering his help in navigating the complexities of managing such vast estates. Initially suspicious, Iska hesitated, but Rafael's charm and confidence eventually won her over. He offered to be her guide in the city, teaching her how to manage her finances and introducing her to the elite circles she now found herself in. What began as a business arrangement slowly turned into a friendship. Iska, with her free-spirited nature and unpretentious ways, charmed Rafael without even trying. She saw the world with a purity and simplicity that Rafael had long forgotten. Their days together were filled with humorous moments. Iska getting lost in the city, misunderstanding modern technologies, and struggling with high society etiquette. Despite the differences in their worlds, a connection began to form. Iska, always trusting and open-hearted, was oblivious to Rafael's initial intentions to take advantage of her naivety. But as time passed, even Rafael began to feel the effects of Iska's warmth. He saw the genuine goodness in her and started questioning his own motives. As Rafael continued to guide Iska through her transition to city life, their bond deepened. They spent more time together, not only discussing business but also learning about each other's lives. Rafael introduced Iska to the best restaurants, art galleries, and high society events, while Iska, in turn, introduced him to her village's traditions, cooking him simple but hearty meals and showing him how to appreciate the beauty of nature. Slowly, Rafael began to see life from Iska's perspective. For the first time in years, he felt relaxed, genuinely laughing at her jokes and enjoying the simplicity of her company. She didn't care about his money, his connections, or his social standing. She cared about him as a person, something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Iska, too, found herself drawn to Rafael in ways she didn't expect. Despite his polished and sometimes aloof exterior, she saw glimpses of vulnerability in him. She noticed how he would stare off into the distance at times, as if searching for something he had lost. Rafael confided in her about the pressure he felt to live up to his father's legacy and how it had consumed him, leaving little room for genuine happiness. The two shared more intimate moments, from walks in the park to deep conversations about life, love, and their futures. As their friendship blossomed into something more, Rafael began to feel conflicted. He was falling for Iska, but he was also hiding the truth about his initial motives. Just as Rafael's feelings for Iska grew deeper, his world started to unravel. His financial problems worsened, and the debts his family had accumulated loomed over him like a dark cloud. Desperate, he considered reverting to his original plan of taking advantage of Iska's wealth to save himself. But fate intervened during a grand charity gala, where Patricia, Rafael's fiancée, confronted Iska. Patricia had grown increasingly suspicious of Rafael's closeness to the country girl and could no longer tolerate the charade. In a fit of jealousy, she revealed to Iska that Rafael had only befriended her to secure control of her inheritance. Iska was devastated. Her heart shattered as she realized the man she had grown to care for had initially approached her with selfish intentions. Confronting Rafael, Iska demanded the truth. Unable to lie, Rafael confessed that while he had indeed started with dishonest motives, his feelings for her had since become real. He pleaded for her forgiveness, but the damage was done. Heartbroken and betrayed, Iska decided to leave the city. She couldn't bear the thought of staying in a place where she had been deceived, and she returned to her village to find solace in the familiar warmth of home. Rafael was left behind, grappling with the weight of his actions and the realization that he had lost the one person who had made him feel alive again. Rafael was left shattered after Iska's departure. The day she left the city felt like the sun had been eclipsed from his life. He wandered the streets of Manila, going through the motions of his business life, but feeling utterly hollow. The city's endless noise and glamour now seemed devoid of any joy or purpose. The corporate meetings, the power plays, the luxury, and even Patricia's persistent attention, it all felt suffocating. Patricia, though furious about Rafael's betrayal, continued to cling to him. Her pride was wounded, and the humiliation of being replaced by a girl from the countryside only fueled her determination to win him back. She tried to reignite the fire between them by planning social events and showing up unannounced at his office or home. But Rafael, unable to shake off his guilt and sorrow, grew more distant with each passing day. Rafael's family also pressured him as his financial situation worsened. The family business was close to collapse, and Rafael knew that without drastic action, they would lose everything. But even this pressing crisis couldn't distract him from the weight of his mistakes with Iska. He had never felt so torn in his life, between duty and his heart, between salvaging his career and finding the woman who had made him realize what true happiness could be. Determined to make amends, Rafael booked a ticket to Iska's village. He couldn't let her slip away without trying to explain himself fully, even if it meant facing her rejection. His love for her had grown beyond anything he had ever known, and he knew deep down that he couldn't live a life without her. The opulent life he had once valued meant nothing if she wasn't part of it. Upon arriving in the mountains, Rafael was struck by the serenity of Iska's village. The clear skies, the smell of earth, and the peaceful way of life were so unlike the chaotic world he had come from. He could see why Iska loved it so much here, and why she had been so hesitant to leave it in the first place. It was a place that nurtured the soul. But when Rafael approached Iska's home, he found Mang Pedro alone on the porch. The old man, knowing what Rafael had come for, simply shook his head. He told Rafael that Iska wasn't ready to see him and that she needed time to heal. She had been devastated by his betrayal and was trying to forget him. Mang Pedro, though saddened by the situation, advised Rafael to give Iska the space she needed. Rafael left the village that day with a heavy heart. He realized that no matter how much he loved Iska, he couldn't force her to forgive him. He would have to prove his sincerity through actions, not words. Back in Manila, Rafael decided to set his priorities straight. He couldn't live in limbo, waiting for Iska's forgiveness without becoming the man she deserved. He immersed himself in fixing the family business, determined to solve the financial issues without relying on dishonest means or exploiting Iska's inheritance. That he hired financial consultants, restructured the company's operations, and even sold off some of his personal assets to keep the business afloat. His family, seeing the toll the situation was taking on him, finally began to understand the depth of his emotional crisis. Rafael's father, who had always pressured him to prioritize wealth and status above all, softened his stance, realizing that his son was trying to change for the better. As Rafael worked to save his company, he also worked on himself. He distanced himself from the superficial crowd he had once been part of, ended his engagement with Patricia once and for all, and even started volunteering at community projects, something Iska had always talked about. Through these small acts of selflessness, he began to rediscover parts of himself he hadn't known existed. He slowly became a better version of the man Iska had once believed him to be. Months passed, and though the ache in Rafael's heart never fully subsided, he learned to live with it. Every day, he woke up hoping that Iska would find it in her heart to forgive him. He sent her letters, though she never responded. He sent gifts to Mang Pedro for the village, though he knew that wasn't enough to make up for his betrayal. As for Iska, the months spent back in her village helped her find her footing again. The pain of Rafael's deception lingered, but surrounded by her family and friends, she began to heal. Life returned to its quiet rhythm. Yet every time she looked out at the mountains, she couldn't help but think of Rafael and the world she had glimpsed in the city, a world where she had fallen in love, only to have her heart broken. Deep down, she missed him, despite the pain he had caused. One day, as the village prepared for their annual harvest festival, a surprise visitor arrived, Rafael. He came, not with grand promises or fancy gifts, but with humility. He sought out Mang Pedro first, asking for his blessing before approaching Iska. Mang Pedro, who had seen the sincerity in Rafael's eyes during his last visit, finally relented. When Rafael finally stood before Iska, She was stunned. He looked different, softer, more grounded. He didn't have the air of arrogance or entitlement that she remembered. He stood quietly, waiting for her to speak. "I don't know what to say," Iska finally admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm not here to ask for your forgiveness," Rafael said gently. "I'm here to show you that I've changed, that I've become the man you deserve. I was wrong, Iska. I was selfish and greedy, and I betrayed your trust. But not a day has gone by when I haven't regretted it." Iska looked away, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. She had spent so long building a wall around herself, trying to forget the love she had once felt for him. But seeing him now, so vulnerable and honest, the cracks in her defenses began to show. Rafael continued, "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I love you. I love you in a way I never thought possible. And even if you never take me back, I'll never stop loving you. You taught me what it means to live, to be happy, and I will never forget that." Tears welled up in Iska's eyes. She had been waiting for those words, but hearing them didn't make the decision any easier. Could she trust him again? Could she open her heart to the man who had hurt her so deeply? "I don't know if I can trust you again," Iska whispered, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you can," Rafael replied, his voice steady with conviction. "I don't care how long it takes. I'll wait for you, Iska." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the weight of their past mistakes and the hope for a future together hanging between them. Slowly, Iska looked up at Rafael, searching his eyes for any sign of deception. But all she saw was sincerity. With a deep breath, Iska finally spoke. "I don't know if I'm ready to forgive you completely, but I do still care about you. I think we could try again." Rafael's heart swelled with hope. He reached out, taking her hands in his. "That's all I ask." Over the next few months, Rafael and Iska took things slowly, rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. Rafael spent more time in the village, helping with the harvest, learning about Iska's world, and showing her that he was committed to being a better man. Iska, in turn, visited him in Manila occasionally, getting to know the city on her own terms, not as an heiress, but as someone who had found her own strength. Together, they found a balance between their two worlds. Rafael learned to appreciate the simplicity and joy of rural life, while Iska began to see the beauty and possibilities of the city. Their love, once tainted by betrayal, blossomed anew, this time built on a foundation of trust, honesty, and mutual respect. Finally, on a beautiful spring morning, Rafael proposed to Iska in the very same field where they had shared their first real conversation. With tears of joy in her eyes, Iska said yes, knowing that they had both grown and changed for the better. Their wedding was a simple, heartfelt celebration in the village, attended by their closest family and friends. It wasn't the grand society affair that Rafael's family had once envisioned, but it was perfect. Under the open sky, surrounded by nature and love, they promised to spend the rest of their lives together. As they danced under the stars that night, Iska realized that she had found everything she had been searching for: love, happiness, and a partner who truly understood her. And Rafael, holding Iska close, knew that he had finally found peace, knowing that he had earned her trust and love. Their story was one of redemption, of finding love in unexpected places, and of two hearts learning to beat as one. Together, they built a life that was more beautiful and fulfilling than either could have ever imagined. A life where they were not defined by wealth or status, but by the love they shared. And so, Rafael and Iska lived happily ever after, knowing that true love, once found, could never be lost. Hope you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your participation is essential so that we can continue to bring you more incredible stories. Share it with your friends to help our channel grow. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.